Honorable Lacson is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, with the permission of the distinguished sponsor.
Of course, to the former PNP chief and who also chaired our committee on public order previously.
Thank you, Mr. President. While I have some issues that concern the Office of the Secretary of the ILG, I will start my interpellation on the agency nearest to my heart. Wala na iba, kundi yung Philippine National Police, Mr. President. Now, my first question is, what is the present personnel fill-up of the PNP, the BFP, and the BJMP?
For the PNP or Philippine National Police, Your Honor, the total manpower component is at 202,440 as of August 31, 2020, Your Honor.
And this would include uniform and non-uniform personnel or just uniform personnel?
That's only uniform personnel, Your Honor.
How about the Bureau of Fire Protection, Mr. President?
For the non-uniform personnel, it's 12,041, just for the record, Your Honor. For the Bureau of Fire Protection or BFP, the actual personnel component is 31,286, Your Honor. And
Thank you.
We're getting the figure for the BJMP, the Bureau of Jails. For BJMP, Your Honor, it's 14,845 as of August 31, 2020.
And the present strength of the PNP correctly corresponds to the 1:500 police to population ratio?
Right now, it is 1:543, Your Honor, at that number we mentioned earlier.
1:540,
543, Your Honor.
543.
Opo.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we factor in the number of personnel due to retire next year, and those to be separated from the service for other reasons, no, probably based on historical data and other bases, what is your program of recruitment for next year to maintain the desirable personnel complement?
According to them, there will be 30,000 after retirement and the usual, the expected vacancies, Your Honor. There will be about 30,500 approximately unfilled positions, Your Honor.
But their
they were
program of
filling only
recruitment,
1,000 of those positions, Your Honor.
but the program of recruitment, at least for next year, will not be 30,000 plus.
Hindi po, 1,000. 1,000 lang po for next year, Your Honor.
Why is that? Why are you recruiting only 1,000 personnel? Yun lang yung capacity ninyo?
Your Honor, that's the only budget provided under the National Expenditure Program.
And assuming that you have the budget, how many personnel can you recruit for next year? Maximum.
Historically, Your Honor, the biggest they've hired is 7,000 to 8,000, and the cost of recruiting is at most 7,000 pesos. 4,000, sorry, I'm sorry. I correct myself, Your Honor. The cost of recruiting one PNP recruit is 4,700 approximately.
And that is based on a cost factor of 1.5?
Yes, Your Honor.
Kindly explain why 1.5? Why not 1.2 or 1.1 or 1?
Parang palugit lang ho yan.
Okay.
Parang palugit
So
lang daw
anyway,
ho nila yun.
I can hear PNP devolved. So
It's the factor. Yeah, I
Parang
apologize, Your
may
Honor. I think you know more about these things than the sponsor. So I
may
apologize
safety
for
net,
for the
no?
lag in the answer.
May safety net na 0.5. Kung mag-recruit ng kailangan 100, kailangan 150 yung under consideration.
Yes, Your Honor. It's for easy.
Okay.
Sabi nila it's for easy computation. And,
Yes.
among other things, Your Honor.
And every one body has a cost
Yes, Your Honor.
sa recruitment. How about training, Mr. President? What is the cost for training per personnel? Kasi recruitment is one thing, but training is another thing, and it entails another expense.
Your Honor, there are two types of training. The academic training, which is 6 months, that is 19,792 pesos per recruit, and there is the field training, which is also another 6 months, which is at a cost of 17,600 per recruit, Your Honor.
17,600 for the whole 6 months
Opo.
per personnel.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about individual, assuming that the police recruits have already been enlisted, in the police service as a regular member, how much would they need for individual personal equipment? Per capita rin.
It's around 20,000 per recruit, Your Honor.
20,000 per recruit.
Opo.
That's for 1 year na.
For 1 year, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And of course, kasama pa dyan yung additional salary, allowances, etc. etc.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, kasama na ba sa computation yun? Di pa? That's a separate item, ano?
Wala pa po yung nabanggit yung mga items. What
As yung PS, wala pa dito.
yung PS is
Separate.
meron po silang 15,229,000,000 approximately, Your Honor. This is for the unfilled positions, pero yung mga training, wala pa po yun sa budget, Your Honor.
Yeah. So yung 15 billion for PS, that's only for the
Salary.
projected, salary and allowance, salaries and allowances for the projected recruitment of 1,000 at for 30,000.
30,000 po yun.
So assuming that we will recruit or they will be able to recruit 7,000 or even 8,000. So anyway, madali na siguro computin, Mr. President. But again, another expense, another item would be MOE, per capita. Right now, and I know this because I was the one who introduced the amendment, they're at 1,395 pesos per personnel in terms of MOE.
Yes, Your Honor, 1,390, tama po.
1,390. So if we will multiply that, assuming na nakapag-recruit sila ng 7,000, we will multiply that by 7,000 to be added to the present per capita MOE of the entire police force.
They need around 26.6 million approximately, Your Honor.
Million
Opo.
for the additional personnel.
Opo.
Yeah. I read in the news that the new chief PNP will seriously implement the 1585 ratio in the distribution of personnel, logistics, and financial resources between headquarters and the field units. Is this directive being implemented as we speak, Mr. President?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so how does the PNP leadership monitor this? That indeed the resources are being distributed properly in accordance with the policy directive, and that the logistics and financial resources actually reach the smallest mammalia in the field, Mr. President.
Your Honor, I was told that from the central financial office, they send the money directly. There is an ATM card for each police station chief, and he holds that card, and the money is given to him without mediation by any district or whatever other provincial official, Your Honor.
I asked that question, Mr. President, because I've been there, and I know that the police patolas of the world, or those pounding the beat in the streets, the intelligence operatives are practically the cannon fodder of the police force. And they deserve all the resources they need to be productive and without excuse to extort for their operations and other administrative needs. And that's a sound policy to really download resources to the lowest level of command, Mr. President. So I'd like to commend the PNP for strictly and seriously implementing the 1585 ratio and the distribution of resources, Mr. President.
They are thankful for your remarks, Your Honor.
Yeah. Another item is on the Quick Response Fund, yung QRF. Is there a budget for QRF sa PNP and even the Bureau of Fire Protection? Because these are the frontliners. Even during the COVID, the height of the COVID pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic,
Wala daw
sila wala. Why is that, Mr. President? Because I understand, when we reviewed the different GAAs, previous year's GAAs, 2016, meron silang QRF. I think 75 million for the PNP and another 75 million for the BFP.
Yeah, it was appropriated you're correct, Your Honor, in 2015, but it was never released according to the PNP.
And what seemed to be the problem? Why was the QRF not released to both? I suppose even the Bureau of Fire Protection, hindi rin na-release ng 75 million in 2016?
According to the PNP, Your Honor, the requirements were quite stringent. I'm asking what specifically were those requirements, but they were not able to meet the requirements. Is what I was told, Your Honor.
So if we restore or if we propose to augment or amend the budget of the PNP and restore the QRF for the PNP and the BFP as well, how much would they need for next year?
Your Honor, for the PNP, they would need around 125 million. This covers both MOE and the capital outlay, Your Honor. And for BFP, they would need 75 million. So that's around 200 million total, Your Honor.
So from 2016 to date, how do they cope with the lack of funds for QRF? Saan nila kinukuha ngayon? Because they continuously respond to calamities. Just like in Taal, for example, and I understand and I heard that at least 6 of their personnel got afflicted with some skin disease or sa lungs because of the sulfur.
Well, among others, they get it from the regular budget, and sometimes they make requests with the NDRIM-C. But matagal daw yung processing ng mga requests, Your Honor. So they would appreciate very much if the body were to augment these funds, Your Honor,
Yes,
as standby funds, Your Honor.
And of course, with your consent and the consent of our colleagues, Mr. President, I will introduce that amendment to restore the QRF specifically for the PNP and the BFP.
Yes, Your Honor. We think that's a good amendment, Your Honor.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. So,
And His Honor has a great appreciation for the needs of the police and what actually happens on the ground, which this representation does not have, Your Honor.
okay, sa OSEC, ano? Okay, yesterday, when I was interpolating on the proposed ALGU LGSF for 2021, I I initiated the proposal to add another item. This is disaster rehabilitation and reconstruction assistance program for LGUs. And I'd like to get the view of the Secretary of the DILG through the swing sponsor. Suppose we augment the budget by with another 20 billion pesos for that purpose. Are they prepared to submit the menu list or the list of LGUs hit hard by the three devastating typhoons and cyclones, Inta, Rolly, and Ulysses?
They would
And
be ready, Your Honor. In fact, I'll place on record that the sponsor already, or the good gentleman from Cavite already mentioned it to Secretary Anyo of the DILG. And Secretary Anyo said they already have the framework for that. They have the mechanism, Your Honor. And as to the information, they can provide that, Your Honor.
yes, and they can just follow the process that they are adapting for the barangay development program do sa NTF LCAP, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor. They are
And I
monitoring
understand that it is not even the DILG that will implement the projects as listed for the 822 barangays, all over the Philippines. Now, can you walk us through how this process will be implemented, Mr. President, and how the funds would flow down to the or straight to the 822 barangays, and how would the barangays implement those projects? Because I understand projects such as farm to market roads, bridges, even local roads, and even for some livelihood programs, Mr. President. So
Yes, Your
can
Honor.
we have an idea?
Yes,
Also
Your
for
Honor.
the education and enlightenment of some of our colleagues who have expressed reservations on the 16.4 billion peso appropriations for the NTF LCAP.
Certainly, Your Honor. We've been given a process flow, and we'd like to flash it on the screen as soon as feasible.
While waiting for the slide, Mr. President, I would just like to reiterate the call of Senator De La Rosa, our colleague and another former chief PNP, na hindi po ito i-release para sa combat operation.
Yes,
No? Yung 16.4 is intended for development.
correct.
Kasi sa ISO, sa Internal Security Operations, meron kaming tinatawag na hold and develop. After consolidating, merong hold and develop. Ito na yung portion na yon. And what an interesting analogy that he used yesterday. I won't repeat it anymore.
Yes, Your Honor. Tama po. We agree with the statement.
So if the slide is ready, can you just walk us through, Mr. President, just for our enlightenment?
Well, while we're waiting, if it's all right, I think they're working out the technical stage, but there are 6 stages involved, Your Honor. The first is the project identification and submission. The second stage is the project review. The third is the project list consolidation. The fourth is the budget review and funds. The fifth is the budget utilization and project implementation, and the sixth is the project monitoring and evaluation. I'll say a little bit, if it's all right, about each stage, Your Honor. At the first stage is the project identification and submission stage, where the eligible LGU barangay undergoes series of issues identification, needs-based assessments, and solution-seeking dialogues through a program which is LGU-led, a community consultation at the barangay level. And the inputs identified during this consultation process is incorporated in the barangay development plan. The barangay development plan identifies priority programs and projects which will be funded in the barangay development program for fiscal year 2021, or the GAB, which we are currently considering at present, Your Honor. And also part of this is the local government unit or LGU barangays submit the complete documents to the DILG field offices through the Municipal Local Government Operations Officers or MLGOOs for initial review and validation. That, Your Honor, is the first stage. The second stage is the project review, where the DILG regional and provincial offices review all the documents, including but not limited to the completeness of the documents, the compliance to the requirements of the guidelines, the budget cap and project menu, which we have been discussing in the past days, the project viability, the project standards set by the concerned sectoral agencies. And here also under the project review stage, the DILG regional offices shall submit the list of projects to the EO70 localization PMO in the DILG central office, and the latter consolidates the list of projects, Your Honor. This leads to the third stage, as flashed on the screen. This is the project list endorsement or consolidation stage, where the DILG central office endorses the lists of projects to the Department of Budget for the release of the funds. This leads to the fourth stage, Your Honor, which is the budget review and fund release stage. In this stage, it is the DBM, after its budget review and the review of all the documentary requirements submitted, releases the funds to the BTR or the Bureau of Treasury. And upon receipt of the notice of funds release from the DBM, the BTR prepares the notice of funds release and releases the funds directly to the implementing LGUs, Your Honor. And that leads to the fifth stage, which is the budget utilization and project implementation phase, where disbursement and utilization by the implementing LGUs is subjected to the pertinent provisions of the Procurement Act and its implementing rules and regulations, and any policies that are issued by the GPPB or the Government Procurement Policy Board, and any relevant budgeting and auditing regulations, Your Honor. And also part of this fifth budget utilization and project implementation stage is to hold the LGUs accountable for the overall implementation of the projects. The LGUs must ensure that the design, plans, specifications, and construction of projects are in accordance with national government standards and within the range of costs and project duration of similar projects being implemented by the national government agencies within the same localities, Your Honor. This leads in turn to the sixth and final stage, which is the project monitoring and evaluation stage, Your Honor. And here it's the DILG, which leads the monitoring of the implementation of projects under the Barangay Development Plan or BDP. And here the DILG is responsible for the project monitoring and the actual project implementation. Duly accredited civil society organizations shall actively participate in the implementation by way of serving as an observer in the procurement process, the Municipal Development Council project monitoring, and third-party monitoring and evaluation. Citizens will play a critical role in the monitoring and evaluation of the projects with the use of community scorecards that focus on social accountability to augment the audits being done by the COA or Commission on Audit. And this hopefully will ensure that the projects create a real impact in the communities, Your Honor. And the DILG also here consolidates all reports and submits to both houses of Congress and to the Office of the President through the NTF LCAC, Your Honor. So that in sum is the six stages, are the six stages involved, and the DILG is involved in most of them, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the same template can easily be applied to the proposed amendment that I mentioned earlier in order to assist the LGUs hit by the three cyclones, Mr. President,
Yes, Your Honor.
with, of course, some slight modifications or adjustments.
Yes, Your Honor.
But it is not that simple because there is in Republic Act 10121, yung Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010, na kailangan meron tayong, by the way, before that, what is the status of the local disaster risk reduction and management office in locally, Mr. President, in all the provinces? Existing po yan.
improvement that of various all of the total number of LGUs, 1,279 are considered functional by the department. This is about approximately a 75% rate, including 76 provinces, 121 cities, 1,082 municipalities. And for the record, Your Honor, the criteria for functionality is number 1, organizational structure. Number 2, financial management of the 5% disaster risk and reduction management funds. Third is compliance to the 70-30 allocation under the law. Fourth are the plantilla requirements. Fifth is the DRRM, or disaster risk reduction management plan. And sixth is the prepositioning of goods, Your Honor. Those are the criteria for functionality, which results in the 75% approximate functional rates of LDRRMOs.
How about at the barangay level, Mr. President? How many out of the 42,046 barangays in the country have their BDRRMC, or yung Barangay Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council? Of course, my particular concern, immediate concern, is those areas hit by the typhoons.
They don't have the data at present, Your Honor, but they say the municipalities have the data for their barangays, and they can submit that data to you, Your Honor.
Because as I mentioned earlier, in Section 12 noong 10121, ang nakalagay dito yung paragraph A, there shall be established an LDRRMO in every province, city, and municipality, and a barangay BDRRMC in every barangay, which shall be responsible for setting the direction, development, implementation, and coordination of disaster risk management programs within their territorial jurisdiction. Now, if and when, and knock on wood, if and when we manage to haggle for the augmentation of 20 billion pesos to those LGUs hit by the typhoons, dapat alam din natin kung paano sila gagawa ng rehabilitation and reconstruction plan through their LDRMO, and of course how they can initially make their assessment, yung tinatawag na PDNA, post-disaster needs assessment, because these are requirements. And without the approval of the NDRRMC, and that's contained in my proposed special provision to cover the third item under the LGUs, Mr. President, kailangan ready sila to submit their own rehabilitation and reconstruction plan for approval of the NDRMC.
Yes, Your Honor.
And anyway, the Secretary of the ILG, are you co-chair? He is co-chair of the NDRMC. Vice Chair.
Vice Chair daw ho siya.
So at least he can help facilitate the flow of funds, the downloading of funds to those areas that urgently need those funds, if and when it is carried in the final version of the GAA, Mr. President.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that's all that I will have to take up on the budget of the DILG, the PNP, BJMP, and BFP. And again, I'd like to thank the distinguished sponsor for his patience and high tolerance sa mga repetitive questions and issues that we are raising. Thank you again, Mr. President.
Just a friendly reminder, don't forget the amendments that we will propose for the legal services.
Yes, certainly.
And the lawyers,
certainly,
the new
Mr.
lawyers.
President.
Yeah, Mr. President, I had an early discussion with the Chief PNP. Ang problema nila yung salary, yung entry level. Secretary Myra, for example, while I was sitting in your in the rostrum kanina, sabi niya she wanted to be enlisted, but she doesn't want to wear the uniform. Sabi ko, problema mo, Sec Myra, mababa yung salary level. Pagpasok mo ng PNP at willing ka mag-uniforme, kapitan ka na kagad, Captain Villarica ka na. Kasi lawyer, legal service. The problem is, kung ayaw yung mag-uniforme, napakababa ng salary level, yung entry level. So, the Chief PNP is requesting for a legislation in this regard. Because I understand we already did this to the PAW and the DOJ. Pinasa natin yung salary grade ng entry level ng mga lawyers sa PAW and DOJ. And they also want, and it necessitates legislation, Mr. President. We cannot do it by mere special provision in the GAA.
So that means amendment to the PNP law or the SSL?
Probably the PNP law, Mr. President. We can amend the PNP law to introduce that amendment so they can recruit more lawyers, more doctors, more chemists. Kasi ito yung problema nila. I understand you only have how many chemists right now? $125 to attend to how many cases? 300,000 cases. So you can just imagine, Mr. President, sa court hearings pa lang, ubos na yung oras nila. At kung hindi sila maka-attend, contempt pa nga abutin nila sa court. So this is the predicament that the PNP is in right now, Mr. President. And I promise the Chief PNP that at our end, we'll do our part to introduce that legislation. Thank you, Mr. President,
Very
and
good.
thank you, distinguished sponsor.
Thank you also.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we assure the body and the presiding officer and the very astute vice chair in charge of and the former chair of the PNP, former head of the PNP, that we will seriously consider and accept their very good amendments and suggestions, Your Honor. And we thank Senator Lacson for always caring for that institution that he used to head, Your Honor. Thank you very much, sir.
By the way, Your Honor, please accept my apologies. I wrongly addressed you by calling you from the south. You are from the west, I understand.
It's all right, Your Honor.